First time I heard of Tikkun was in June of last year, June of 2022. Victoria Collier and Ben Zion Pasnek. I get it close.
Call me Ben.
Call you Ben. Spoke at the UU service, and I was so impressed, I immediately came home and wrote an email to him saying, "You've got to come and tell us your story." It was so impressive. In August, they came and spoke to us and created a wonderful presentation and gave us an overview of the last 12 years. They started this 12 years ago, or 13 years ago now. And they have implemented a design for sustainable living and land use here in San Miguel, a model. The harmonious integration of land and people that provide food, energy, shelter, and other needs, most importantly, in a sustainable way. Well, they've been very busy since their last visit here, and they've come to tell us what they've been up to lately. Victoria Collier is a writer, artist, ecologist, organic grower, and nonprofit director. Early in the 2000s, she was co-founder and director of Tierra Lucero in Taos, New Mexico. There she developed organic gardens and home garden programs for low-income families. Victoria is also the co-founder of Tikkun and oversees the development of the Farm and Community Earth programs. Ben Zion, I won't say the last name, is a retired Vermont state senator who served on the state agricultural health and economic development committees. He retired from the Vermont Senate in 2001 and moved to Mexico, and we thank you. And he pioneered renewable energy, installing hundreds of solar and wind energy systems here in the state of Guanajuato, Jalisco, Nayarit, and in all of Mexico. He now promotes climate crisis mitigation, ecological renewal through the Tikkun Permaculture Center. We invite Ben and Victoria to come up and tell us what they've been up to.
Another short person. Short people. There's just more packed in. Okay, can everybody hear me all right? Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria, and my partner, Ben. I'm going to be doing most of the talking, but Ben will chime in. Better half. And Diego, we are going to start with the video before the slideshow. So before we show a video which perhaps some of you have seen, it's only 6 minutes long. It is about our project. We're going to show it again, just for those of you who haven't seen it. I just want to say thank you to everyone for having us here today, and really thank all of you for your work in the community. It's really heartening to see so many people who are, not just here to retire or play, but to serve and to give back to this community. So thank all of you, and we've been very busy since we've been here, since we came last year, so we're going to update you on the work that we've been doing and how we're moving forward. So I think we can go ahead and just play the video. Hopefully everybody can see the subtitles. It just has subtitles. Okay.
del plano o del proyecto es que visualicen lo que se pretende hacer con el área que es del bordo. Lo que se pretende hacer, con lo que ya se hizo, por ejemplo, fue lo del trabajo de restaurar principalmente el bordo.
About what's happened since we made that video and since we've last spoken to you. So some of you, I don't know if you haven't all been here this whole year, but this has been, of course, a record-breaking climate change year for the whole planet. Here in San Miguel, we experienced something really unprecedented in July, which was this heat dome that ended up moving up into the US, but it started out in Mexico, actually. And it sat over us for almost all of July. And it really delayed the monsoon rains that we need for growing. So this is the Bordeaux that you saw in the last video. It retained its water through the entire dry season for the first time in over 10 years. So we still had water to continue to water the trees. We watered them all through the dry season, and this was July. So it still was very dry, but still had a lot of water. Now the trees that we planted last fall, and I think some of you came and helped us with that, you can see on the left the sort of skinny saplings that they were, and on the right is what they look like now. And they just have done amazingly well. We've had almost a complete survival rate for the saplings, and they're just flourishing. And partly that's also because we took this really good soil out of the reservoir and we used it to plant these trees. So that's another part of the comprehensiveness of this program. You've got good soil that you're using from the reservoir, water from the reservoir, and you can reforest around the reservoir. Just some more pictures of them. Now, we started building the solar pumping station for the eco park. Ben can talk more about that in detail if anybody has any questions. But these are some of the things that it's going to provide for this project. Electricity, a pump that brings water up to the village from the reservoir, which is down the hill from the village. And we're going to be keeping equipment there as well. We hope in the future also to be doing some like kayaking on the pond and bringing kids out and doing some ecotourism stuff. And also it's a community meeting space that the community actually doesn't have. None of the groups in the villages have anywhere to meet when they want to get together. So we have built the first watering station, and this is for the animals in the community. And we've had donations from Don Pedro to help us build this. And the next step is that we're going to be running pipes to the homes of people who have animals and who have home gardens and who aren't able to have sufficient reliable water. So the next phase is really being driven for us by this climate crisis that's accelerating so quickly, so much more quickly than we expected. So 2023 was the hottest year on record globally, and you can see this map. I'm sure you can find us on that map. We're in the red zone. Right here. Yeah, we're in the red zone. So sometimes it's hard to tell when you just live in town and you don't grow food and you don't realize just what's happening. It is so dry. And a lot of the communities around San Miguel, the rural communities, have lost their crops. All of our neighbors, all the farms around us lost all of their corn, beans, and squash crop this year. They got nothing at all. And so did we. Not only did it not rain in July, but it once again did not rain in September. It rained the first week in September, and that's a key month for sort of finishing out your crop. And then another high-pressure heat dome came, which is just it's just unprecedented, and it sat over us again for a month. So this brings up the need, once again, for capturing rainwater when the rain falls. It does fall, but it's less and less consistent, and often when it does fall now, it's torrential. So, you get these extremes. That's what climate change is bringing. So we want to be able to capture that rain when it does fall so we can have it for the drought times. Catastrophic drought, of course, is worldwide, but in areas like ours, all around the world, we're at more risk. We are a semi-arid region, and we are headed more toward being arid if we don't act to reverse that process. I'd like to be able to speak and read at the same time, so can I do that? Oh, I can disconnect it? Okay. Okay, great. So some of the solutions that we're working with have to do with reservoir restoration and watershed repair, so that we can capture the monsoon rains and protect rural agriculture and provide safe drinking water, so not the contaminated well water that many rural communities are now having to drink, and stop the soil erosion that's happening in our watersheds that's also leading to more desertification, and restore the groundwater that's being depleted by agribusiness. So that's what the restoration process does. It does all of those things. And once you have got your water restoration projects underway, then you can do the reforestation. And reforestation actually reverses what's called desertification, and that's the cycle that we're in here. It's a cycle of desertification. We're getting drier, we're losing trees. So when you reforest, you actually begin to attract rain, you stabilize your soils, you sequester carbon, which of course we must do for climate change, you create habitat and biodiversity, you lower overall temperatures, and you provide shade in urban and in rural areas. So there are many reasons to plant trees and cactus, and the cactus here are very important, the cactus and the magueys as well. So these solutions that we're talking about and that we're modeling here have been employed throughout the world, and all over the world it's being done on a large scale. So we wanted to talk about this for a minute so you can see that this is actually very inspiring, and this is what inspires us. If you want to learn more about this, please go to YouTube and find this video. It's called The 5 Most Epic Earth Healing Projects. And Andrew Millison, who's a professor, he does a lot of videos like this. You can find them and you can really be inspired. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about. Look at this before and after photo of large-scale restoration projects. This is in China's Loess Plateau. You see what's possible. Now, in our area, we are in the Altiplano of Mexico, which is the central northern highlands. We are in a dry, high region of Mexico. Most of the rest of Mexico, south and east and west of us, is much more humid and a lot more trees, a lot more rain. So in order for us not to become more arid and basically like the deserts of the north, we need to be doing this kind of restoration work on a large scale. These are water capturing systems that have been built on slopes, and terracing systems so that you stop erosion and you can start to restore habitats, trees, crops, biodiversity. This is in India. Everything that you're seeing here are water penetration pits. And basically that's slowing the rainwater as it moves over the land and allowing it to penetrate back into the groundwater system, and so that the soil can hold the water instead of being washed away. This is one of the first steps toward reclamation. This is what it looks like after the rains when these systems begin to catch water. Now, this is an enormous project, and you can learn more about it if you watch those videos. In India, it's called the Water Cup, and they have absolutely transformed entire regions, entire states, from really poverty and loss of habitat and soils into abundance and prosperity. People are able to stay on the land, not have to leave because their crops have failed and they aren't able to irrigate. It's a complete transformation, and this is what we need to be doing in Mexico for our rural communities all throughout Mexico who are suffering the same kind of troubles that are plaguing dry and arid regions around the world. So you see here these water catchment systems that they've created are allowing for reforestation. The trees are able to survive as the water's penetrating into the soil. This is the before picture of the Arvari River Valley, where the river had stopped running, and in 9 years, thanks to water capturing systems that they had been just continuously installing, the river was restored. Year after year, it ran a little bit more and a little bit more until finally it runs perennially now. Most of this work is being done by people. just as we're doing here with our projects. This is Africa, where again, they were able to restore rivers and capture enough water so that the people can have security and stability in their water and their food production. This is our site. This is just a snapshot of some of the similar water capturing systems that we have on our property. Penetration pits and contoured swales are what they're called. And this is the Bordeaux that we restored, the reservoir that we restored. As the water comes running down off the hill, we're just slowing it down with these topes. These are very simple systems, but they prevent erosion, and that's very important for restoring our watersheds. Now, I might turn this over to Ben for a sec.
Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. And Victoria did that whole video. Victoria taught herself to publish videos, and okay, don't kick me. She's kicking me. So when I started the project of restoring the reservoir, we went to the town and we asked them for help. And they were kind of slow at, the uptake of what we were trying to do. But after a while, the village delegate called the head of the Department of Public Works and called the head of ecology, and she got them to pay some attention, and delegations from the city departments came out and saw what we were doing. And eventually they adopted us, and they gave us bulldozers, and they gave us some labor, they gave us 1,000 trees, and they also started to say to us, we got 40 more Bordeaux around San Miguel that need restoration. If you want to help with that, we'd be happy to work with you. And I said, is there any money for that? And they said, no. And so I said, okay, well, I talked to Victoria, we decided to raise the money ourselves, and they put up 50,000 trees as sort of collateral. We can go to foundations, we can go to other groups, and we could say, we will get 2,500 trees for every reservoir we restore. And so that once we restore the reservoir, once we desiltify it, we can plant all around it and stabilize the soils above so it doesn't fill up again. And then we also discovered, after we finished our first reservoir, our model reservoir, that we could water, as Victoria mentioned. That's very important, because in drought seasons, little saplings are not going to last very long. People go out there and plant 1 million trees on a hill. They come back the next year and maybe 5 or 10 or 20%, if they're lucky, survived. We've got a 98% rate, and they were very impressed with us, so they have basically written us a letter that says, you can speak for the city of San Miguel in going out and reaching to foundations, etc. And we did that. And one of the biggest foundations in Mexico, the Rio Arante, is now, we'll know in a couple of weeks whether it's final, but is going to be granting us, and through the Caminos de Agua, to do a whole reservoir restoration. The budget is almost $100,000. It includes an organization called Salvamos el Rio Laja, who will do the restoration of the watershed. They're experts at that. Tikkun will do the reservoir restoration, and we're going to train people to, as we do it, to go out and do it in other communities. And this will be in Dolores Hidalgo. Okay.
That Ben forgot to mention is also in this letter, it agrees that they will also help us with extracting lirios from the Presa Allende to use in the reforestation process. So we want to, we'll come back to that at the end, but that's also essential for the success of the project. So we all know that the lirios are choking the Presa. It's an enormous problem. I watched a documentary about invasive species worldwide. The #1 invasive species was listed as water hyacinth. So, I have to go faster. Okay. However, it is also a resource. It's a tremendous resource that we can use for reforestation as both mulch and compost. It really does help the trees survive. So I'm going to go fairly quickly through. We do have a few communities that we're already working with who are interested in restoring their traditional reservoirs. So Sosnabar is, this was a Sosnabar in 2013, and now 2023. So
Their reservoir is defunct.
yeah. Yeah.
And here's the water, this is where their reservoir was. It's now a gully, a bunch of gullies. Yep, keep going fast. This is their only surviving reservoir that people can access. This is a meeting that we had. We have 4 meetings with the community because I wanted to help them, we wanted to help them, but they have to make the decision whether they want to be helped. So they met, and there was a lot of battles over this, and they finally voted 73-2 to go ahead with the restoration project. This is a contract we made, an agreement we made with the ejido to what we were responsible for. They were just responsible for planting the trees. This is ejido up in the hills above Toltonilco, called Ejido Los Torres. This was their reservoir. It's completely siltified, and you can see how deep how shallow it is. The dam is broken. So here we are walking around with a team of the Ejido community. This is Ejido Alonso Yanez. It's on the other side of the reservoir near La Huerta, and they have 9 reservoirs. 7 of them are siltified.
So we've been meeting with these ejidos, and we've been bringing them, okay. And we've been bringing them out to Tikkun as well to have them see what we've been doing. This is just a reminder for those of you who haven't been out there. This was what our center looked like in 2012, and here's essentially the same view from 2022. So we've actually planted, we've really, at this point, it's over 3,000 plantings that we've done. So we do continue to plant and to teach. We actually did this weekend. So this whole weekend we just created this little tiny forest on our property, and we worked with the Montessori students from the local Montessori school, and they came out with their parents, and we planted 150 trees, mostly natives, this weekend. It was wonderful. We called it Planting for Peace because we also are keeping in mind the need for peace in the world right now. So we did a lot of prayers for peace, worked with the kids and talked with them about all the things that they love about the world, and said prayers around all the trees. And here are the lirios that we brought from the presa to use in mulching. You can see them mulched around the trees, and they will provide a lot of moisture for the trees, probably cutting it down by about half. So you can use the lirios. You see you have 2 piles here. On the left, they're fresh and green and full of water. On the right, they're a little bit more composted. We're using both. In the reforestation. They provide nutrients, they provide organic matter for the soils, especially if the soils are very dense, and they provide a lot of water and humidity for the soil and the trees. So we are hoping to continue this work and to bring a lot more of those lirios out of that presa for this reforestation.
Say one final word. We only have 1 minute left, but I wanted to say that early this month, in the first week of October, we formed a cooperative of various projects, permaculture projects, all around San Miguel, and we hired a truck and we hired a bulldozer, and Ecología gave us permission to load as many trucks as we want with the lirios that are along the banks of the Presa Allende, and we did 15 trucks that went to about 5 different locations all around San Miguel. And that co-op will continue to use that. We now have the driver and the truck and the bulldozer that we can use to load the trucks. And we're going to do this again on a regular basis. We hope to when we do 20 reservoirs and plant 50,000 trees, that will require 500 to 600 truckloads of Lirios, which should make a bit of a dent. It's not, you know, by far even half or a quarter of the reservoir, but it will begin to make a dent. And I think more people will start using that compost. In the future, I hope that we can completely alleviate the Presa Allende problem of the Lirios with reforestation. That would be our ideal, our vision of, that would be our ideal. That would be our future vision. Thank you very much.
5 minutes for questions. We've got about 5 minutes for a few questions, and I know there's going to be more, but let me tell you, go to Google, Tikkun Eco Center. There where you can see the whole project, you can make your donation to them, and this is life-changing for our area. Okay, so we'll start in the back. Oh, we'll start with John. John had his birthday the other day.
I just wonder if you're using Lirio and as mulch, do the seeds go down into the reservoir and then the reservoir gets overrun? Or what happens there?
Well, no, there's no trouble with that at all. First of all, it doesn't have seeds. It calves, it splits, it multiplies. Well, but this is the way it spreads in the Presa, and we are not connected to any of the waterways that lead into the Presa, so there's no concern about contamination. And when you use the Lirios for compost, there's some concern about using it on food crops, because when it comes from the Presa, it may be contaminated with all of the heavy metals that are in the Presa and the other, pollutants. But when you use it for reforestation, there's no concern. Nobody's consuming the product. So it's really the perfect thing for, restoring soils, building soils, and helping the trees survive.
We would not use it on our farm crops.
Yeah, we don't use it on farm, and we don't put it into any waterways where it's going to get back into the system to begin with, yeah.
We do put them in our ponds where we grow tilapia, but the ones we put in the ponds, we grew ourselves. They don't come from the Presa Allende. We have 4 ponds, and 2 of them have Lirios and tilapias in them. And the tilapias eat the roots of the Lirios, and then later we use the Lirios for composting for our farm crops. But
okay, next question. So you've identified, it sounds like you've identified about $100,000 in funding. Do you have projections for the total funds you'll need to restore all 20 reservoirs?
Approximately $50,000 is what we spent on this reservoir, and that included a lot of labor for doing the irrigation, and we've done extra things. We're turning it into an eco park, so we're putting lights in it. We're going to have kayaks there, so there'll be a sort of added benefit to the community. But an average, I think about $1 million would be the answer, would do the basic infrastructure changes on 50 reservoirs, on 20 reservoirs. 20 times 50.
Another question. Is there any money that going to be dedicated on educating people about not polluting the rivers and the reservoirs, et cetera?
Yes, a big part of what we're doing with both Caminos de Agua and Salvamos el Rio Laja is an education program in the schools. We're going to the schools, we're inviting schools to come out, we're teaching them about ecology, about restoration of soils, restoration of watersheds, restoration of groundwater, and we're basically working as hard as possible to teach the next generation how to do it right. I mean, our generation kind of screwed it up. Pardon my language.
Question's really for Joe and the club leadership of this club. Have you thought about actually applying for an international foundation grant to assist them?
Yes, we have talked about it. We actually have a prospective project that we're working on right now for restoration, and it's a pilot project. Everything starts slowly. We have to come up with a needs assessment, But yes, we are working, and we've recognized the problem. They recognized it a lot sooner than we did, because like she said, we're kind of living in this bubble sometimes. We think we're okay, but we're not. So, Victoria, you want to?
Well, there's one more question.
Oh, okay.
How do you feel about using biocontrol agents like on the hyacinths and the cress? You know, like the plant hopper that's used in the U.S. South and taking care of the hyacinths?
I don't know enough about that. I think, you know, you always have to be careful when you're introducing a new species to try to get rid of another species. That can end up becoming a bigger problem later. So, but I wouldn't be able to comment on it. I'd have to do some research into that particular control.
One of the solutions, a biosolution that was thought of before, would have killed the plants, but they would have sunk into the presser, and they would have created basically an anaerobic situation. And so there's consequences. I would prefer to see them harvested, and we've done some research where these hyacinths are harvested with this big machine called the Watermaster, right over in the next state of Jalisco, down in Chiapas. These harvesting programs give you biomass that you can use for composting. I'd rather see it turned into a asset, into a resource, than wind up with a secondary problem.
Okay, I'm just taking the microphone away from the Brooklyn man, because only another Brooklynite can do it. So, but I wanted to give you guys welcome. Thank you for speaking to our club today. Can we give a big round of applause? And these are a couple of coffee mugs for you guys to enjoy. Always wonderful to have you back. Thank you very much. If you have any more questions, they're here. And have a great day, everyone.